Okay? Thanks, guys. Is it finished yet? There are 3 more left. Oh, there are 3 more. We're fine. Is there dinner at home now? Upper there. I have that hamburger over there.
Good evening, Jardim. Igor Siqueira from Alvo. You mentioned turning the ball over in the danger zone. I was going to ask you specifically about Carrascal. How was it for you to see that play right at the beginning, that missed chance that caught our attention? He was also involved in that loss of possession that led to the second goal, the equalizing goal, sorry. How are you dealing with Carrascal, who was sent off, got suspended by the STJD, and will have his case heard again tomorrow? How do you assess his current form and that specific missed chance? Were you able to understand what happened then?
Carrascal, compared to the ones we talked about earlier, is younger, isn't he? He's young, he's a very talented player. But surely he's not at his best right now, is he? Because of red cards, because things aren't going well. But that doesn't take away from the quality he has. And my job as a coach is to support him and keep encouraging him so that he can express all of his talent, correcting him when I need to, but encouraging him because that's how football is. Some players have better moments, then others dip and others rise. That's how it works as a team, and that's usually how it goes. But in terms of work and dedication, I can't complain because he's been giving his best effort. Only a few things aren't going well. But I believe that my experience tells me that this type of player will get through this moment and then things will go well. Because he has been working tirelessly and professionally.
Maybe Jardim thinks he's young, like a lot of people also think he's an extremely young player. But he's 27, he'll turn 28 on May 25th, just so you know. Okay? He's not a kid. He looks like a little boy, but he's not, okay? He's already a player who's practically the same age as Pedro.
Jardim, how are you? Good evening. Here in the middle, Gabriel Orfo, Paparazzo Rubro Negro channel. Jardim, in your squad you have 3 players who haven't been used yet, right? Diogo Alves, Androl, and Saul, who had been injured and was available on the bench today. I wanted to know how you see Saul in your team. He has already played wide under Felipe Luis, but wide on the right, but he stood out more playing as a box-to-box midfielder, and if he can get some minutes already against Bahia next Sunday. Thank you.
For sure, today we brought in Saul and we brought in Cebolinha after a break. Saul had the longer break, Cebolinha had the shorter break. They weren't the option to come in because I believe that, for example, Ney, who's already on a run of games with the team, was more adapted to come in at this moment. We still need to see how Saul develops after a few more training sessions, but he's clearly an important player for the squad. And Cebolinha, since he was coming off a rib injury, I chose to put him in. In the end, Wallace, who is also a physical player, good in duels, and can play on the outside or on the inside. Because if Cebolinha comes in for 10 minutes and takes a hit and I end up hurting the player, there's no need for that. That's why those were the options, but for sure there are 2 players who will get more chances, and in the future, when they start training more, they'll be an option.
That's it, because of the game. Man, I wanted to know what changed with Leonardo Jardim in your role on the field as well. You've been more intense, making good contributions, and putting together a good run. I wanted to know from you what changed tactically with Leonardo Jardim and not with Felipe. Well,
I'm just talking a bit about the guys on the bench when they come on. And I mentioned that with Felipe Luis, I played a bit wider. Era jogo mais to be wide, one-on-one. And sometimes I ended up, not that I was harmed, but I have a bit of that characteristic. But sometimes there were games where many of the clubs here in Brazil work a lot with man-to-man marking, so sometimes you get double-teamed and sometimes it's hard to get past 1, 2, 3 players who come at you. And with Leonardo Jardim, no. I think what makes him different is the mobility. Playing inside, playing with your back to goal, asking for the ball in behind, sometimes spreading out wide, sometimes And he gives that freedom, so I think, like I mentioned in the previous answer, I think this style of play fits me better. Because I also like to get on the ball through the middle, make runs in behind, and not stay out wide, so it's a different style of play. I felt really good during a period with Felipe, and now with Leonardo Jardim, I'm feeling good in this run, and I hope to keep helping. I'm much more confident in this system.
Lino, you mentioned confidence. What can you say about that as well? Your improvement on the field is due to the tactical setup, but is it also because of the confidence that comes from this streak?
As I mentioned, I think the style of play also made me identify with it, made me feel comfortable within the team, and the way Leonardo Jardim works.
I've had a coach work with us like this before.
So I was able to clearly understand what the coach is asking for, and by doing the things he asks of me,
That's where the confidence in good games come from, and that's it.
May I? Good evening, Paquetá. You scored your goal in the Libertadores, opened the scoring in this victory for Flamengo, a very important win, undefeated in the competition. And a very expressive celebration with the fans, showing your passion for Flamengo to them. What have you been feeling about this connection with the fans, who at times have demanded more from you? When the results weren't coming, and now with the wins and the goals, it's been a much closer relationship.
Man, I think my relationship with Flamengo won't change regardless of the results. I'm a guy who grew up here, who lived through many moments, and today I'm back to live out my dreams. So no one can take that away from my heart. And I think the fans are very aware of how dedicated I am, how much I try to do my best. And of course, criticism is normal, and I'm very calm about that. Tonight is special because I scored my first goal. After everything I've been through, everything I've endured, to experience this moment again at home is wonderful for me. I'm very happy.
Paquetá, Paquetá.
As a deeper-lying midfielder, you've played your third straight strong match. And speaking a little about your future as well, thinking about the Brazilian national team, the World Cup, do you believe that playing as a deeper-lying midfielder under Leonardo Jardim, with the competition you have at Flamengo, is the position that could also get you into the World Cup?
Man, about the World Cup, I have to do my best at Flamengo, no matter what position I play, of course, people know that. The way I like to play is the way I feel most comfortable, but I'm always making myself available. The squad is a very high-quality squad, so I want to help, I want to be involved, I want to help Flamengo.
thanks guys, thank you.
After the defeat against Bragantino, you talked a lot about responsibility, about how that match was a shame, and I wanted to know what changed after that defeat, since today Flamengo takes the field with a different attitude. What changed for you in the locker room from that defeat to now with 4 wins and strong Flamengo performances?
It was a major change. That match versus Bragantino was a setback for us. That's normal to happen, but we need to make the right and quick corrections so we don't stray too far off course. That's what we try to do there internally in training, in our conversations. And we were able to show on the field that, like I said, it was a misstep and we hope it doesn't happen again. Or as far apart as possible so we can have peace of mind, consistent performances, and do as much as we can. Thank you.
Danilo.
With today's victory, Flamengo starts the Libertadores with 2 games.
Danilo.
What did returning to Maracanã mean to you after Flamengo's 4th championship and their first game since winning the Libertadores, once again with a packed stadium and strong fan support? And of course, very happy, since you scored the title-winning goal that gave Flamengo their 4th championship.
Yeah, it's very satisfying for us to come back here and play in the Libertadores. I think this is also my first game this year after the Rio State Championship as a starter. In front of our fans, the crowd put on a beautiful show, supported us. We were able to play an interesting and important game, and that's what we have to try to keep doing from now on.
How was it? What was said on the field after conceding a goal and then quickly scoring the second goal? What did you discuss? So that the mood wouldn't drop since the fans felt it a bit when we conceded that goal, what did you guys talk about? How did you keep up the momentum and manage to get this big win today?
We talked about just keeping on doing what we were doing. That goal was our mistake, a lapse in attention. But it happens. It happens to every team, and we just kept going the same way. We controlled the game, kept possession, attacked, and just needed to keep going. The second goal was inevitable.
I'd like you to evaluate your positive start with Flamengo in the Libertadores. After all, you started in the first 2 games of the competition and had 2 solid performances in Flamengo's defense.
No, for sure. Damn, what is it, Zerone? So we started the competition really well with a very tough game at altitude and then a flawless game here at Maracanã. We knew we were going to have more possession and we couldn't give the opponent any chances. So these two games are really important for us to keep doing well in the competition.
Actually, Flamengo has 4 straight wins, and this streak hasn't happened since August.
Regarding the issue, we've talked a few times about having a squad with options, so I actually disagree a bit with your statement. We went with our strongest lineup. Our full strength is whoever puts on the shirt goes out there as one of the 11 and shows the quality and commitment needed to achieve the club's goals. And today it was achieved with a 4-1 result, and I think it was well deserved. And once again, you know that playing, we have a game today, Sunday, then in 2 days we have another game, then on Wednesday we have another game again, and it's almost impossible for the same player to play 3 games. That's it. We talked about 90 minutes, so it's much harder, so it's not just talk. The coach also has to make the players believe that when they play, they are capable of performing their roles. And this is what the squad has shown so far. We've had some lineups, many of them different from each other, and the response on the field has been positive, even for those whom some people would like to see starting all the time. But for me, the starters are the ones who start the match, and today the starters were the base, and the others came in later to help. Of course, all these players have a history with the club, especially Bruno Arrasca and Pedro. As you said, Paquetá only arrived this year, but he has also been here in the past. They are players who strongly identify with the club's values, understanding what it means to wear the shirt, knowing that regardless of the opponent, we already have a responsibility. And that's the message I also want to reinforce. And those more experienced ones, so that on the field we can show everyone that regardless of who is playing, from the start we have to have that responsibility to wear this Flamengo jersey and impose our style of soccer, impose our ideas. I think we started the game very well. Unfortunately, a mistake that cost us the ball in a dangerous area led to us conceding the equalizer, but then we managed to react. In my analysis of the statistics, I think the opponent had 1 shot on goal. So it shows our superiority in the game, a good win. We earned 6 points, and now it's time for the guys to recover well, so that on Sunday we have another game against a good team, which is a good team and has the luck or not this year of playing only 1 competition and the cup, but they have a week of rest to face us and will be fresh, so we also have to be fresh to be competitive and aim for another victory. The preparation for this game was based on 2 things: the importance of the game and the result. I told the players that a positive result would give us an advantage of 5 or 6 points over the other 2 opponents. Right now we are first with 6, the third has 1, and the fourth has 0. It would open up a gap here compared to the last 2. A result that wasn't positive could have put us in 3rd place, and that's not what we wanted. In terms of behavior, the respect we have to have for all opponents, and I also mentioned the 2nd round of last year in the same competition. I talked about the 2 clubs that played yesterday and also couldn't beat the South American teams. And why did I mention all that? So that the concentration, motivation, and attitude would be strong, and that's what happened in the game. We started the game strong. We tried to impose our game. We pressed the opponent. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to score another goal in those first 15 or 20 minutes. We had several chances to score, but that's it once the 90 minutes are over, because it was a deserved win, especially with our best moment in the first 20 minutes up until the equalizing goal. 20, 25 minutes maybe. And then the second half as well. I think it was a balanced second half.
Jardim Raisa Simplicio here. Good evening. Jardim, last year, Flamengo made it very clear what their priorities were in terms of competitions. Next week, the Copa do Brasil is already starting, so there will be 3 competitions simultaneously that Flamengo will be competing in. And last year, the board, everyone made it very clear that the priority was the Brazilian Championship. Throughout the season, the Libertadores also gradually became one of the priorities. And I wanted to know from you, have you already talked about it? Are there any priorities this year? How is that internally?
For sure, when I got here with 4 days to go before the Carioca Championship final, the priority was to win the Carioca, to be 3-time champions, so we could go for a 4th title next year, right? That was the priority. Right now we have 3 competitions, and for those who play for Flamengo, all competitions are a priority. It's a priority right now in these 2 months we have. It's a priority for us to qualify the team for the second phase of the Libertadores. It's a priority for us to have a good performance in the championship and stay close to first place. And it's a priority for us to advance in the Copa do Brasil. That's a priority. Maybe one thing or another might not happen, but it's a priority for us because, as I told you, we work at Flamengo. We have a squad that can rotate a few players and still maintain the intensity, and that's why all competitions are a priority for us. Thank you. Football is a game where it's usually important to have some versatile players in the squad. We have Paquetá, who's in the midfield, who's a versatile player. We have Bruno, who also plays on the wing, plays inside, plays as a second striker, and is also an important player in terms of versatility. Because later on, for example, there are injuries, there are drops in form, and these players also allow the coach to make adjustments, make changes, and manage the squad more effectively. Com certeza que we have many defensive midfielders. We have 5 players in that position, both holding midfielders and box-to-box midfielders, but the league is long. I believe that everyone will have these opportunities, and of course after that they play more based on their performance. We'll see in the future how the players perform, but for sure I'm satisfied to have options. And I'm glad to have 2 or 3 players who are versatile, who can play more on the outside, more on the inside and up front as well. And doesn't use a striker but the forward as well. He's a player who plays on the right, plays on the left, can run in behind. And it's important to have this type of player who gives solutions to the coach and the team. Pedro is the striker of this team. I've mentioned that a few times. But for sure there are some games that require a different type of striker with other characteristics. I knew today that these teams are a bit more aggressive, more focused on duels. Bruno is also a forward who handles himself well, both in his movements and counter movements. Pedro is a player who holds up play more, and we noticed that when the game slowed down and the opponent had less ability to physically challenge us, Pedro started to show up in the game, offering central support. It's also important sometimes to pair up the players, and in the last game against Fluminense, we paired Lino and Pelata. When Pedro came inside, the other 2 would go deep. These dynamics are important. For example, when we have Bruno up front, one of the wingers can help out more. In the central area, there's no need to go deep because Bruno himself provides that depth, and I always look for that. As the French say, the link up between the players. If one comes to the ball, another provides more depth, one gives more balance, another attacks the space more, always taking advantage of this connection between the two players.
Thank you. Good evening, Leo Jose from Coluna do Fla. I know everyone wants to know a lot about Paquetá. You also talked a lot about how you define the midfield in terms of the versatility of the players, but I would like a more detailed explanation about Paquetá and also about his position as a box-to-box midfielder. He played against Cusco and against Medellin as a box-to-box midfielder, and he played very well. But soon, Polgar and Jorginho will be back. What criteria will you use to decide who will be the starter there between Paquetá, Jorginho, or Paquetá and Eric Polgar?
Performance, that's always what I use, on-field performance. I can't say that, when Eric is there, it's always him who will play, or it's always Jorginho, or it's always Sahel, or it's always Paquetá. Soccer is dynamic. I talked before about moments, the moment of Rascal. There are also moments, there are injuries. The important thing is that whoever plays has a good performance, and whoever performs better will play more. That's life for all soccer teams. That's why I hope to get my players back, Eric, Jorginho, because if you noticed in the last 3 games, we've been overworking Everton, we've been overworking Paquetá because we have 3 players out. But I believe that with their recovery, the 2 will be back. But with Sahel getting back in shape, we might be able to manage things better moving forward. In this 2-man midfield or in a 3-man midfield sometimes, like it happened in the Cusco game, when we started with Paquetá, Everton, and Nico. And in life, to reach top-level football, high standards had to be part of my principles, and I'm always more demanding. I don't believe in perfection. I believe there's always room for us to improve, for us to get stronger, both in life and in football. And that's why I think the team and you, better than anyone, can see that. Because you have an analysis of the past and the present, while I only have an analysis of the present. I don't want to make comparisons, but some ideas that I bring up, and the players are approaching it positively, and they try to implement it day by day in training and then in the games. But as I already said, this team is established. This team, I definitely want to add my personal touch, but this team has a history. It has a history behind them, but for sure there are things nowadays that at times perhaps they didn't do before, and there are things they did before that they don't do now. So here it has to do with the profile and the idea of each coach. There is something we have achieved, and I have talked to the players about it, which is respect for our opponents, but in every game we play, we have respect for ourselves. Respecting ourselves means not thinking about what we can't control, which is the opponent, and focusing on what we can control, which is our performance and our attitude. And you saw in a derby, we started very strong, we started well, but today, against a supposedly less highly rated team, in quotes, we had the same behavior and the same attitude again. And for me, it's very rewarding to have a team that shows leadership, a team that plays its football regardless of who the opponent is. It's one of the things I like about my teams, regardless of whether we're playing against Real Madrid or Madeleine. What matters is controlling what we're capable of, which is our actions, our behavior, our attitude, and our effort on the field.